All right, so factor x to the power of 4 plus 3x cubed minus 7x squared minus 27x, take away 18 completely. So we're looking for factors of negative 18 because that's the constant. So the factors of negative 18, what can I divide negative 18 by? So that's plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, plus and minus 3, plus and minus 6, plus and minus 9, and plus and minus 8. Once one factor is found, you can stop testing and use the factor to divide p of x. All right, so let's start. What are we going to start with? You always start with the smallest one. So let's do p at 1. P at 1, that's going to give me 1 to the power of 4 plus 3, 1 to the power of 3 minus 7, 1 to the power of 2 minus 27 times 1, take away 18. And if I do this one, I'm going to end up with negative 48. So x minus 1 is not a factor. Let's try p at negative 1. So it's going to be negative 1 to the power of 4 plus 3 times negative 1 to the power of 3 minus 7 times negative 1 to the power of 2 minus 27 times negative 1 minus 80. So right here, that's an 18. Let me just move this a little bit. All right, so that is going to give me 1 minus 3 minus 7 plus 27 minus 18, and that's going to equal to 0. So that tells me that x plus 1 is a factor. So since p at negative 1 equals 0, this tells us that x plus 1 is a factor, and then we're going to use division to determine the other factors. Now, obviously, I'm going to use a synthetic division. It's much easier, right? Especially I have a linear divisor here. So let's do synthetic division. All right, so I have 1, I have 3, negative 7, negative 27, and negative 18. So I bring down the 1 times negative 1, that's negative 1, subtract, that's going to be 5, sorry, I'm adding. Let me just go back here for a second. Add, that's going to be 2. And 2 times negative 1, that's negative 2. Add, that's going to be negative 9. Negative 9 times negative 1, that is negative 9. Positive 1, 9. And then I'm going to add, that gives me negative 18. Negative 18 times negative 1 is 18. And then I'm going to add, and that's a remainder of 0. So since I'm starting with x to the power of 4, right, then, and I divide it by x, so these are going to be x cubed, x squared, x, and the constant. Okay, so x cubed plus 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. So you see that this one here, it's not quadratic, so I cannot use the sum and product. So in this case, we can further divide this using division again, or we can do factor by grouping if we can. Now in this case, I'm going to show you for method 1, which is a division. And I'm going to have to find factors of this. So the factors, again, of negative 18, okay? So which is that we've seen that before, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, and so on and so forth. Let's use p at -2. So that's going to be -2 cubed plus 2 squared, -2 squared minus 9 times -2, and then take away 18. That's going to give me -8 plus 8 plus 18 minus 18, and you see that this is a remainder of 0. So I know that x plus 2 is a factor. So what I have to do here is I have to set up another synthetic division. This time it's -2. Have 1, 2, -9, and -18. 1 times -2, that's -2. And then if I add, I'm going to get a 0. 0 times -2, that's a 0. If I add, I'm going to get -9. -9 times -2, that's 18. And if I add, I'm going to get a remainder of 0. Perfect. So now, this is x squared because I had a cube, x, and the number. So now, x4 plus 3x cubed minus 7x squared minus 27x, take away 18, is equal to, what have I found? Found that my first factor was x plus 1. My second factor is x plus 2. And then my quotient is x squared. Since this is 0x, I don't need to write it, minus 9. Now, you see that this is difference of squares, right? So I can factor that easily without doing any further division. And that would be totally factored, completely factored. So in the second case, you can do division, you can do synthetic division, or you can try factored by grouping. So in this case, if I do factored by grouping, group the first two terms and the last two terms and separate with an addition sign. So what I have here is I have x cubed plus 2x squared. Sorry, let me write that up here. So I have x cubed plus 2x squared, and then I have a plus minus 9x minus 18. Common factor with each group. So my common factor for the first one is x squared, and I'll be left with x plus 2. Common factor for this one is -9, and I'll be left with x minus plus 2. So you see that my common factor here is x plus 2. So that's going to be x plus 2. I'm going to factor it out, and I'll be left with x squared minus 9. So, therefore, what I have here, what I found first is that my first factor was x plus 1. My second factor was x plus 2 and x squared minus 9. And then I can rewrite this as x plus 1, x plus 2, x minus 3, x plus 3, because I did difference of squares. anytime you have 4 terms, you can always try to see if you can do factor by grouping, okay? It's easier. Because when it works, it saves you lots of time. So try factoring by grouping again. So this is another example, okay? And I have a quadratic function here, x to the power of 4 minus 6x cubed plus 2x squared minus 12x. I'm missing, obviously, as you can see, I'm missing the constant here. So if I'm going to try factor by grouping, so I have these two and I have these two. I'm factoring out an x cubed, and I'll be left with x minus 6. I'm going to factor negative 2x or positive 2x, and I'm going to have x minus 6. So you see my common factor here is x minus 6, and then x cubed plus 2x. I can factor an x out here, so that's going to be x minus 6, and then x squared plus 2. X squared plus 2 is not factorable, so that's it. That's the most factor I can go. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how can we determine the factors coefficient other than 1.